Today we shall learn what's a treasury bill market and how does it function. So let's begin with knowing what's a treasury bill. In simple words, treasury bills are the short-term debt instruments for the governments. That's it. If the governments wants to borrow money from public, they use treasury bills. Therefore, treasury bills are investment options for people like you and me, for companies, and most importantly for the banks. Right? Now you may be curious to know how does a treasury bill look like. This is an old template of government of UK treasury bill. It's very hard to find description of a treasury bill on physical paper nowadays because treasury bills are no more issued, held or traded in physical or script form. Like many other financial securities, treasury bills are also issued, held and traded in dematerialized or electronic form. So that makes transfer of ownership of treasury bills in the markets more simple, efficient and convenient. Treasury bills basically belong to a broader securities market called GSEC market or government securities market. In this market, it's only the sovereign government that enjoys the privilege of being issuer of securities and nobody else. In government securities or GSEC market, apart from treasury bills, long dated securities that have a maturity, ranging from 1 year up to 40 years are also issued by the governments through their central banks, right? A government security that could be either a bill or bond is nothing but a mere acknowledgement of debt obligation by a government that issues such security. Government securities, whether short-term treasury bill or long-term paper, both of these are very popular investment options among the banks. This is because banks can use investment in such securities to build their statutory asset portfolios prescribed upon them by the central bank. In India, federal government has the sole prerogative to issue treasury bills, while as state governments are not allowed to issue treasury bills. Right? However, state governments can raise state development loans by issuing long-term bonds are dated securities. So that is what a government security is all about. Right. Now, here is the list of benefits that investors can derive by buying government securities. Okay. Okay. We need to know the motivations. Why would somebody invest in a government security? First of all, government securities are safe investments because governments are the issuers that issues those securities. Second benefit of investing in government securities is that they can easily be traded because of being issued and held in electronic format, right? Government securities also follow delivery versus settlement scheme. That's investors that ought to be given treasury bills get them instantaneously without any lag or delay once the payment for them is made to the issuer, right? Among the government securities, treasury bills are very liquid as many people and institutions trade in such instruments. Another feature of government securities is that they offer a wide range of maturities to investors from 91 days to as long as 40 years. Now, for being safe investments without any risk of default, government securities have a huge collateral acceptability in the repo market. Now, what is this repo market? Soon or maybe tomorrow we'll be having a session wherein we'll discuss what is a repo contract and how does this market actually work. Okay. Now, since government securities represent safe investments, okay, and they enjoy a huge collateral acceptability in the repo markets. Hence, there is no need to sell government securities in case one is in need of cash, right? So these securities can always be then given as a collateral for securing a short-term loan from the bankers in the market, right? Now we raise a very important question. That is, does Treasury bill offer investors a protection against inflation? In simple words, Treasury bills offer better investment opportunity than bank deposits in the short run. We know that bank deposits give us a very low fraction of return in the short run, which is usually insufficient to protect us against the loss in the value of money due to inflation. Now, when we look at this graph, we could probably find answer to the question that do treasury bills offer a hedge against inflation? This graph shows us historic movements in consumer price inflation and Government of India 91 days treasury bill annual yield from January 2014 to October 2019, right? The fact that annual 91 days treasury bill yield has always exceeded the annual inflation. When you look at the graph, you can find it easily. It seems that treasury bills have done very well to protect investors against the risk of the inflation, right? Now, a better way to understand whether Treasury bill helps investors to fight against the losses due to inflation is that we look at treasury bill yield that is adjusted for inflation, right? Earlier we had a look at the rough yield, but now we are adjusting the yield, we are subtracting the from the yield the inflation, right? A careful observation of this graph shows us that historically from January 2014 to October 2019, inflation adjusted annual 91 days treasury bill yields have always been positive, right? From this, we can easily understand that historically from 2014 to 2019, those who would have invested in treasury bills would not have been successful, would not only have been successful to defeat the inflation monster, but would have also pocketed some positive returns as well, right? Now, there is another graph. Now, in this graph, it shows us cumulative returns and cumulative worth of our investment in the year 2019. Had we invested a sum of rupees 100 in 91 days treasury bill in the year 2014, so it assumes that we invested rupee 100 in the treasury bill in year 2014, and then what is the, how did it grow, and what is the condition in the year 2019, right? Obviously our investment worth rupee 100 would have, when we look at this graph, we understand that obviously our investment worth rupee 100 would have grown linearly to the extent of about rupees 130. The upper graph shows you the change in the investment from rupee 100 to rupee 30. So that's that in a linear fashion, right? So this graph shows us that who would have invested rupee 100 in the year 2040 would have got appreciations in the value of that investment to the extent of 130 until year 2019. So that's equivalent to bagging an average return of over 5% per annum. This looks like a fair return if we talk about if we discuss returns in the short run, right? Moving on. Now, after understanding whether treasury bill is good or bad investment in the short run, let's now look at the features of treasury bill, right? What features does it offer to various stakeholders in the market who participate or who buy and sell treasury bills there, right? Now, if we demystify the term treasury bill, it has two parts: bill, treasury, and the bill. The word bill indicates a short-term note or a claim, and the word treasury is associated with the sovereigns or the governments, right? Hence, treasury bills could be defined as short-term financial instruments that are generally issued by the central banks on behalf of the government, right? In that sense, treasury bills help governments to raise short-term funds from the money market. Government issues such short-term paper in the money market to obtain credit, which is used by them to finance deficits arising out of short-term budgetary mismatches. So that's the purpose. That's the main motivation why governments, issue or raise finance in the money market when they sell treasury bills, right? Treasury bills are zero coupon securities. That is, they pay no interest, right? For example, a 91-day treasury bill of rupee 100 face value may be issued at say rupee 98.20 paisa. That's at a discount of say rupee 1.80, and would be redeemed at the face value of rupee 100 on its maturity, right? Now the return to the investor if he invest in such a bill is the difference between maturity value or the face value and the issue price. Okay, so here in this case it is rupee 1.80, right? Now what is the advantage of investing in a zero coupon security? All other long term securities, they bear coupon and they generally lead to regular interest payments in favor of the holders, in favor of the investors who would have invested money in such securities. Now a zero coupon security or a bond usually yields higher returns than a coupon bearing security or a bond that pays regular interest, right? There is a reason for that. Okay, treasury bills and other government securities are called gilt-edged securities. We are talking about what characteristics or what features does treasury bills offer its investors in the market, right? Now treasury bills and other government securities are also called gilt-edged securities. Because why they are called gilt-edged securities? Because they carry practically no risk of default. There is no risk of default, right? Sometimes they are also known as riskless securities, risk-free securities, right? So practically that gives rise to a notion that there is probably no risk. Okay, when we say riskless or risk-free security, we mean to say that there is no risk default. Because why there is no risk of default? Because the issuer of the government securities or a treasury bill is always the sovereign or the government, which is free from default, which cannot default. Why a government cannot default? Let's try to understand that. Okay. Now, we argue that treasury bills and other government securities are called gilt-edged securities because they carry practically no risk of default. In that case, treasury bills are safe investments and also provide better returns than banks that give their depositors just a fraction of returns on short-term deposits, right? This is also because governments that acts as issuers of treasury bills and other long-term securities can never face shortage of money to liquidate outstanding debts, such as treasury bills, etc. Right? In the event of an acute shortage of cash, governments have the currency printing machines, right? They can print new currency notes as their own currency printing machines and enjoy liberty to do so. Nobody else can do so, right? So because of that, privilege that the governments have access to the currency printing machines, and if ever they feel that they don't have sufficient cash to liquidate the outstanding treasury bills, they can print fresh currency and then liquidate the crash outstanding treasury bills. And this is what gives rise to the notion that treasury bills are almost free from any default because the governments issue them, right? But treasury securities are also extremely liquid because it's a very big market. A treasury market keeps on moving because everybody buys securities there and everybody believes that treasury bills are safe and secure. So a lot of people hold this stuff, right? So it's really easy to trade in these securities. So that was, some discussion about understanding the characteristics of treasury bills, right? Our basic purpose-based idea is to understand the treasury bills and how treasury bills market actually functions, right? Now, in the next slide, these are the treasury bill tenors or treasury bill maturities that have been in vogue in Indian money market, right? At present, only 91 days, 182 days, and 364 days treasury bills are auctioned by the central bank, and 14 days treasury bill has been discarded and is no more auctioned by the central banks in the Indian money market, right? Now let's see the purpose. Let's try to understand the purpose of a treasury bill market, for the government, right? A treasury bill market is very vital for every government. This is so because such a market helps governments in many ways. For example, governments can use this market to tide over their short-term budgetary mismatches. Similarly, governments can use treasury bills market to pump in or pump out liquidity to the money markets. But how? How can governments do that? Pump in or pump out liquidity to the money markets. You see, when governments sell treasury bills, liquidity is literally pumped out. Because they take the cash from the markets and then offer the markets treasury bills in lieu of that. But when they buy back such treasury bills from the market, probably on their maturity, then liquidity at that time is pumped back into the market because they collect the treasury bills back from the investors and then offer them the money in lieu of that. So that is what then gives rise to the pumping in of liquidity back into the market, right? So treasury bills also support the government's repurchase agreement market, right? Because treasury bills, until they are not intended to be either redeemed by the issuer or else sold by the holder to the other investors, they can always be given as a collateral security to secure an overnight or a very short-term loan in the money market, right? So that is, as a whole, the purpose of treasury bills market, okay, in the wider money market, right? Now, this is the list of participants that trade in the treasury bills market. Okay, from the contents of this list, we observe uh, that treasury bills market is highly dominated by the institutions like banks, primary dealers, corporations, mutual funds, etc., etc. However, domestic retail investors and foreign institutional investors are also permitted to buy treasury bills in India, right? The retail investors can invest in treasury bills through their banks using their demat account, right? In this segment, let's understand how treasury bills are sold in the market, right? At present, treasury bills are basically sold through auction mechanism. An auction, now what's an auction? An auction requires a seller to put up a certain offer of securities to prospective investors up for bidding, right? So if something allows you to bid before you buy it, then we say that you are or the other party is selling you through the auction mechanism, right? There are two different approaches to such auctions that include yield-based auction and price-based auction, right? Yield is the overall return that investors may be expecting to get on a treasury bill. So in the Indian treasury bill market, investors are allowed to bid on in two ways. One is, they can bid for a certain yield, or the other is that they can bid for a certain price, right? Now let's try to understand how these two different types of, yields actually, how these two different types of, bids or auctions are conducted. Okay. Now here is an illustration of a yield based auction. Now here is an illustration of how a yield based auction is conducted. This is an example of a 10-year government of India bond auction, right? In this case, we are talking about yield based auction, right? In this case, investors are allowed to bid for yield, right? They can bid for a certain amount of treasury bills which is offered in the markets by the issuers, but only on yield basis, right? They have to quote yield, right? Once the bids are received and the auction is closed, the issuer sorts the yield bids in ascending order to decide the cutoff price, right? Now, if you look at this illustration, cutoff yield is 8.22%, because this is the yield at which issuer receives the bids for the entire notified amount of the auction, and the notified amount of auction in the given case is rupee 1000 crore. So what happens, a certain notified amount for the auction is announced, and then the investors are encouraged, they're asked to bid if it's a yield based bid, okay, with a certain yield. Then, the different, bids are summarized by arranging them in a ascending order, and the cutoff yield is decided for the auction. Am I clear? Cutoff yield is the yield at which the allotments would be finally made to the investors for their, subscription to the treasury bills, right? Am I clear? So this is how yield based auction is conducted, right? Now in the next example is given the price based auction. This illustration explains you the price based auction. Again, it's the same previous example showing how price based auctions are held, right? Under this method, there's a slight difference. Investors are not asked to bid for the price yield, rather they are asked for to bid for the price, right? Once the bids are received and auction is closed, the issuer, finds out the cutoff price, not the cutoff yield in this case, by arranging the bids in descending order in terms of the price bid, so as to decide, the cutoff price, right? Now in the given example, cutoff price is 100 rupee and 20 paisa, right? Because this is the price which completes the total notified amount. This is the price, this is the bid at which the notified amount actually gets fully subscribed, right? Now in the given example, cutoff price is 100.20 paisa. This is the price at which issuer receives bids for the entire notified amount of the auction, right? The main difference in yield and price based auctions is the manner in which bids are sorted to arrive at the cutoff price. The main difference is basically, by the nomenclature. In one case, the investors or the bidders can bid for yield. In the other case, they are allowed to bid for price. But the fundamental difference is the manner in which the cutoff price is finally decided. In the earlier case, like yield based auction, it is decided by arranging the bids in, you know ascending order. But in the later case, which is price based auction, bids are arranged in the descending order to find out the cutoff price. Am I clear? So that's how, yield based and price based auctions are conducted in the treasury bills or the government securities market. Okay. Now in the next slide, let's try to understand the methods of allocation of treasury bills, methods of allotment of treasury bills. How, treasury bills are finally allotted to the, bidders or the prospective investors once the auction has been conducted and the cutoff price has been decided. Okay. So there are two approaches that can be followed by the issuers for allotment of treasury bills after cutoff price or yield is worked out, right? In the first case, that is uniform price auction, all successful bidders may be allotted treasury bills at one cutoff price, irrespective of at what price they might have made their bids earlier, right? Provided that their bids fall within the cutoff yield or price, right? But in the second case, multiple price, that is multiple price auction. As the name suggests, all successful bidders are allotted treasury bills at their bid price or yield, subject to the condition again that their bid price or yield falls under a cutoff price or yield. Am I clear? So these are the two ways of, making the allotments. One is uniform, another is multiple price, right? Now an investor, depending upon his eligibility, can bid in an auction under either of the following categories. So when an investor bids for a certain, government security offer, he has to choose out of two options. There are two options. One is competitive bidding, other is non-competitive bidding. He has to disclose whether he is applying through competitive bidding route, or is opting for the non-competitive bidding route. Now, what are the two? What is the difference between the two? Let's try to understand that, right? Now, the main difference between competitive bidding and non-competitive bidding is that in case of the former, bidders will have to bid quoting a certain price or yield, right? However, under the non-competitive bidding, bidders are not required to specify a price or yield. They are only to mention the total amount for which they may be interested to get the securities, right? The first category is generally used by well-informed bidders like large institutions, while the second category is mainly used by small, or less informed investors in the market, right? Now, this is the calendar of auction of different securities that is followed by Reserve Bank of India, right? It's evident from this calendar that auctions are held in such a manner so as to facilitate prospective investors to get allotments by the following Friday of the week in which an auction is basically conducted, right? Now let's try to understand how settlements happen when deals are made in the treasury bills. Like, now, banks and other financial institutions that participate in government securities market are encouraged to hold securities in electronic format, right? For this purpose, those people who participate in the auction of the government securities, they are encouraged, they are told that they should have, these bills in the electronic format, right? For this purpose, these participants are required to maintain two accounts with the central bank in India. Now, what are these two accounts? One is a current account, which is needed to facilitate money transactions, while the other is a subsidiary general ledger account that's needed for holding securities with the central bank in the demat form, right? Now, what about retail investors? This was about large institutional investors like banks, provident funds, insurance companies. Now, what about retail investors? Retail investors, as already mentioned, have the option of holding government securities in dematerialized form, okay, with a depository. Just like they can hold any other stocks, bonds. They can hold treasury bills also in a dematerialized form by having an account with a certain depository, okay. Now, this facilitates trading of when when retail investors have the privilege of holding treasury bills in the electronic format in their demat accounts. This would in turn facilitate trading of government securities, including treasury bills, on the stock exchange, right? Moving on. Now, let's know how does trading in the government securities market function, okay. How does trading take place in the secondary market when we say government securities or treasury bills for that matter, okay. One way to buy or sell government securities, including treasury bills, is through a broker or through a recognized stock exchange, right? So this is what is known as over the counter deal, okay. The alternate route is that treasury bills can be brought and sold to the central bank that offers them in electronic form, okay. Now, for this purpose, right, the alternate route is through the central bank that offers an electronic platform for this purpose, known as negotiated dealing settlement, or NDS. Now, NDS or negotiated dealing settlements is RBI owned or Reserve Bank of India owned screen based bidding and trading module for government securities. So this is just an interface which allows the prospective investors in the market, if they wish to trade in government securities, okay, they can do so by having access to this particular screen, which is owned by or which is a proprietary of the Reserve Bank of India in the Indian money market, right? Moving on. The NDS has two modules. The NDS, which we discussed, which is an electronic interface, which is an electronic screen that investors can use in the market for subscribing to the treasury bills, either in the primary offer or else trading in the same treasury bills with the other investors in the secondary treasury bill market, right? Now, this NDS module has now this NDS has two modules. One is called primary module and the other is called secondary module, right? The primary module is also known as NDS. Primary module, also known as NDS, is meant for auction purpose or for fresh offer of government securities, right? So this is a model which has been exclusively developed for facilitating fresh auction of treasury bill or government securities in the market, right? while as the NDS order matching or NDS OM module, right, is an anonymous screen based order matching module that facilitates trade of government securities in the secondary market. Once the securities are brought or obtained or purchased from the issuer on the NDS format, on the NDS platform, later on they can be traded with the subsequent investors in the market using the other module which is known as secondary market module or NDS order matching module, right? So these are the two segments or two divisions of the negotiated dealing systems or the RBI or the RBI proprietary screen driven or screen based trading systems that are involved in the government security market and facilitate people when they are interested in investing or trading in government securities, right? Now on NDS prospective investors, NDS was basically launched in year 2002. On this platform, NDS platform, prospective investors can submit bids electronically for a primary issue of government securities. Once bidding is done, this module can be used by the issuers to ensure allotment of securities, even the discovery of price, even the setting of cutoff price is also done by this module, right? And this module can also be used by the issuers to ensure allotment of securities to the successful bidders, right? Now this is the overall summary of the features that NDS offers to the stakeholders in the government securities market. Like if you look at the screen, a few things have been mentioned, like it helps in creation of new issues by RBI. Investors can submit bids with the help of this this module. Then it helps in processing of bids to arrive at cutoff yield or price, and then finally allotment of allotment of securities and their settlement to the prospective investors. So all the necessary things that are needed in a primary offer of government securities made by the governments are electronically handled by this particular module, this particular interface, right? So that's what brings efficiency to the stakeholders who are involved in sale, purchase, or investment of government securities in the money market, right? Now let's look at the NDS order matching module that was launched in year 2005. NDS order matching module facilitates anonymous trading in the government securities market between various participants. What do we mean to say by anonymous trading? By anonymous trading, we mean to say that the seller doesn't know who is the buyer. The buyer doesn't know who is the seller, because there is always a wall or an interface that uh, that hides the identity of the one party from the other party, right? So that's what is called anonymous trading. If there is anonymous trading, that's what can bring in transparency or more efficiency into the systems or markets wherein such tradings actually take place, right? Now, NDS order matching module facilitates anonymous trading in the government securities market between various participants. This module provides an efficient mechanism for transparent price discovery in the market. So that's, as a whole or in nutshell, the job which is done by the NDS order matching module or system in the government securities market. Now, this is the brief summary of benefits that NDS order matching systems provide to various stakeholders in the market, right? For example, it enables or facilitates OTC, over the counter trades between two GSEC market participants or constituents. It helps the market participants for reporting of trades done on the NDS, right? And it facilitates order matching. Order matching means when two people place order for, when a person places an order for, let's say, buying treasury bills, it electronically or automatically helps that person or that bidder to match with the best possible order on the other side from the other person, right? So that's what is order matching. Then it also facilitates the settlement of securities which are done in the secondary market between the participants, between the investors, through Clearing Corporation of India Limited, right? So this is the summary of the benefits that investors can derive from NDS order matching module, right? Now, to have an idea of how NDS works, let's take a look on the snapshot of NDS trading screen. So this is how NDS trading screen looks like. We might not get access to this screen because this system is basically allowed, access to this system is basically allowed only to the privileged participants, privileged stakeholders in the market. Okay, retail investors are not allowed any access to this screen. They can invest in The treasury bills participate in the treasury bills offers in the market, but always indirectly through the other, institutions, right? Now, in the next screen, in the another screen, this is the snapshot of NDS order matching system, right? You can see, a list of few orders that are outstanding and waiting for the execution. If you examine this snapshot, right? Finally, question that who is allowed to have access to the NDS platform needs to be addressed, right? Now, this list shows us that banks, primary dealers, mutual funds, etc., are the primary members who can have direct access to NDS, right? While as state governments, private provident funds, and corporations are allowed to have access through primary members only, right? So there are two ways that the NDS can be accessed. One is the direct access. That direct access is only given to few, like banks, primary dealers, insurance companies, and mutual funds. You can say large stakeholders in the market. Others, like uh, state governments, private provident funds, and corporations, joint stock companies, they are not given the direct access. They can participate in the government securities market always through the primary members. That's if they want to buy or sell the government securities, they will have to approach primary members. But primary members will always have a direct access to the issuer, which is the central bank in the given case, right? Then at the end, we need to know what requirements does a membership for NDS ask for. Suppose if anyone wants to have, what's the basic requirement for a primary membership in the NDS, right? A member to this network is supposed to have all these conditions fulfilled before he is allowed to access the NDS platform and conduct auctions or trades through it. Now, what are these conditions? A careful look of this slide will help you to understand the conditions needed for having a primary or the basic membership in the NDS platform, right? Now, the first condition is that the individual or the institution, mainly an institution, is supposed to have an SGL account. SGL account is the subsidiary general ledger account with the Reserve Bank or the central bank. Along with this, there has to be also a current account as well with the Reserve Bank, right? Then the constituent or the interested institution is supposed to have membership with Clearing Corporation of India as well, so as to avail the clearing and settlement facilities in the government securities through this institution, right? Then along with all these conditions, member the member is also required to have infinite connectivity. Infinite is a dedicated network that facilitates the connectivity with this platform, with this platform that is known as NDS. Okay, so that's all from my side about the idea of treasury bills and how treasury bill markets function. If you have any questions,